Good morning and welcome to Georgia Court News. We've got a podcast today. I'm going to try to keep it as straightforward as possible. I'm going to be revealing some information about two attorneys at the Issa Law Firm. Those attorneys' names would be Mr. Mark Issa and Mr. John Majeski. Going to keep it as straightforward as possible, as I say. I hired these two attorneys when I had a criminal charge against me. The criminal charge derived from my company, a construction company, tailor-made swimming pools, of which I had owned for many years. I've been building pools for well over 30 years. Cobb County, I built one swimming pool out in Cobb County, and I get charged with racketeering. They had 3 predicate acts. Predicate acts are actually 3 customers. And on all 3 of those predicate acts, I was charged as follows. On and about June 17, 2002, did commit the offense of theft by conversion when having obtained United States currency, the property of Nicole Temples and Wesley Temples, under an agreement to make a specified application of such funds. He did convert those funds to his own use in violation of OCGA 1684A. Now, the other 2 counts are identical, they're just different names. One of them is Kenneth Breeden and Geraldine Breeden, his wife. And the other one is a gentleman by the name of Christian J. Valvo. I use the name gentleman very loosely here in regard to Mr. Valvo. So they allege that I collected money from these people and converted that money to my own use and didn't apply it to what it was supposed to be applied to. Well, it's just not so. And number one, by the end of the trial, they had convicted me of receiving continued payments from these people and converting those payments to my own use. When the fact of the matter is, I never received one payment from any of these people, which is easily established and easily proven. And the case is just entirely ridiculous, and it should have been easily resolved, but enter Attorney Mark Issa and John Majeski. The way they convicted me is, first they said things like I put up the wrong building permit in an effort to lead the homeowner to believe that a building permit had been obtained when actually a building permit had not been obtained, and that this showed fraudulent intent to never complete the job and convert the money to my own use. Well, that's just not so either. Here is the building permit for that property. I obtained it before starting construction on the property, as is always done. And this just demonstrates how, when you're in a courtroom and there's no watchdog watching what goes on in that courtroom, they can do whatever they want to do. Because let me tell you about this building permit. After the trial, I was all up in arms about this building permit. I knew I had the building permit, and I came to find out that not only did the judge have a copy of this building permit during the trial, the prosecutors had a copy of this building permit during the trial, and even my own 2 attorneys, Mark Issa and John Majeski, had a copy of this building permit during the trial, but nobody said a word about it. In fact, they led the record of the trial to establish something else entirely. Now, here's a letter from Christian Valvo. Here's where all the trouble started. I arranged the loan for Christian Valvo to get his pool built. It was $60,000. He borrowed $50,000. And he was planning to rip me off. And he thought that the lender was going to pay him those funds directly, and then he could come up with some excuse not to pay me, and he would pocket that money, as he has done with everyone else he's done business with. And I have precise records to that effect, and they are posted here on Georgia Court News for your review. And on the very day that the funds were made available for the construction that I had completed, Conseco Finance, whom I got the loan from, they come out to the project, and they inspect the property, and then they have these completion certificates, certified completion certificates. These certified completion certificates say that the undersigned certifies that the property improvements are completed to the satisfaction of the customer, and the customer signed this certificate after completion of the property improvements, and all signatures on this certificate are genuine. Any money advanced, it goes on to say, we certify that any money advanced has been spent in accordance with the terms contained in the contract. The property improvements are completed to our satisfaction. I'm covered. Every payment that was given me that day, I got a completion certificate for. 4 certificates, okay? The payment records right here show the 4 payments going to tailor-made swimming pools. But when Conseco Finance came out and they had Christian Valvo sign off on these completion certificates saying that he was happy and all the money had been spent in accordance with the terms of the contract, then Conseco signed off on them. And then Conseco handed me the checks. Well, Christian Valvo, he went about nuts and started raising Cain. And the date on this date was June the 29th. 2002, and as I say, he thought he was going to get that money, and when Conseco paid me, he started raising Cain, and he said, no, you're supposed to give me those checks, and Conseco said, why would I give you those checks? It's my job to make sure you're happy with the project, you're happy with the work. It's my job to make sure that Tailor-Made Swimming Pools does the work. They've done the work. You've signed off on it on these completion certificates. I've signed off on it. Now it's my job to make sure this man gets paid, and he handed me the checks. Christian Valvo storms off in the house, and he goes home, and before I can make it, he goes in his home, and before I can make it to my office, he had sent this email that says, this message is for Richard Bradford. I don't like the type of service your company has given me. Therefore, I would like the money I have given you refunded to me ASAP. Well, number one, you haven't given me any money. Conseco just paid me. You're held at an arm's length. The deal is between me and Conseco. It's not even between me and you, Mr. Valvo. And that's that. So, here I am confused. Here I am accused of converting this money. I've got the certified completion certificates. They say I didn't get the building permit. The building permit's right here. Then they want to show some more fraudulent intent. So then they say the prosecutor gets up there and says that I put the Better Business Bureau logo on my contracts to deceive my customers to believe that I'm a member in good standing with the Better Business Bureau, which is also easily resolved because I have this letter right here from the Better Business Bureau that says, as requested in your witness subpoena that I sent the Better Business Bureau, we can confirm that the above company was a Better Business Bureau accredited business from July 19th, 2000 until 12/3/2002. These contracts in question were in June of 2002, so I was accredited Better Business Bureau member, in good standing with the Better Business Bureau. In fact, I was in such good standing, I had been invited into an invitation-only program for arbitration that's reserved for only the most reputable businesses within the community. And I was a member of that as well. But these people at this trial, having me in there alone with them, nobody watchdogging this trial to see what's going on and report what's going on. They said my company didn't exist. They said I converted continued payments from these people and that I was not a member of the Better Business Bureau, and that they just made me look terribly awful. And this is what so often happens in these courtrooms, because you got these vicious people who do whatever they want to do in this courtroom, and there's nothing you can do about it, because once they get through with you, they send you to prison, and as soon as you get through in that courtroom, they just lock you up in the back somewhere, and then in a week or two, they load you up on a bus. And where, like, for example, where they sent me, I'm down on the Georgia-Florida line in Valdosta State Prison. Fighting gang members on a daily basis, just trying to survive. So, back to these two attorneys, John Majeski and Mark Issa. These fellas gave me no representation whatsoever. They called, I just demonstrated, I've got all the evidence to refute and prove conclusively that everything the state of Georgia said was false and a lie, and that I am in fact innocent of these charges. I had that documentation before trial. While I was in the jail, I'd been diagnosed with cancer, and I'm going through various cancer surgeries. These two lawyers never came to see me about my case. I had this evidence, and in fact, I had mailed it to them because they did not and would not come see me at the jail after I paid them their hefty super lawyer fees in cash. I wonder if they reported that to their taxes. Cash. In any event, they never came to see me, would not come see me about my case, so I mailed all this evidence in to them. But the only thing they did is they negotiated a plea deal with the state that if I would plead guilty, I could go home on probation. Pay a bunch of money, go home on probation. They didn't tell me how much money. They said I had to pay $10,000 down, which, I had $10,000. I had plenty of money. I could have paid the $10,000 down, but I didn't owe no $10,000, so if I don't owe it, I ain't going to pay it. So these attorneys worked out this deal that for me to plead guilty, but I wouldn't plead guilty. So, they just sat back and let the state prosecute me uncontested. These attorneys, let me say that again, they just sat back and let the state prosecute me uncontested. They called no witnesses in my defense. I had a $2 million insurance policy on all three of these contracts these people are talking about. If I owed these people any money, all they had to do was file a claim with my insurance company. They were insured for up to $2 million. If I so clearly owe these people money, why didn't they just simply file a claim with my insurance company? I had that insurance policy I could have demonstrated as evidence at trial, but Mark Issa and John Majeski, they didn't know anything about that either. It's posted here on the website, Georgia Court News. You can review my insurance policy. I had the building permit. I had everything I need to prove I'm innocent. Not only am I innocent of these charges, these contracts are not enforceable. All three of these contracts are contingent contracts. contingent. Mr. Breeden's contract was contingent on him getting permission from the Environmental Health Department that would allow him to move his septic system into the side yard. He had to get a variance in order to be able to do that, a zoning variance, so that he could build his pool in the backyard. So he had to sign a contract with Taylor Made Swimming Pools so that I could give him a plan that shows the offsets from the property line and how far it's got to be in from the property line. Everything that's required by the Environmental Health Department, I had to draw for him so that he would be able to get this permission to build this swimming pool. Now, the Temple's property, it was contingent on, they had a big pump station in their backyard with 2 septic tanks, and they didn't want to pay to have that relocated anywhere else, so they had to get a zoning variance through the Board of Commissioners in their county to get permission to build their pool in the side yard. So a contingent contract is not an enforceable contract. It's contingent on whether or not they accomplish what I just described. And if they can't accomplish what we just described, well, we have no contract. And it's not enforceable until they do accomplish that. They never did accomplish it, so there was never a payment due, and there was never a payment made to me. The only money paid was the deposit on the contract, which is required in the state of Georgia to make the contract enforceable. And the salesman that sold these projects, that's his commission. He gets the deposit. And it says right on the contract the deposit is non-refundable unless you cancel the contract within 3 business days. It says right on the contract that the variance is the responsibility of the homeowner. I invite anyone from We the People to explain what act Richard Bradford committed where legal consequences can attach. There are none. But yet these people wanted me to plead guilty to something. And they found me guilty of something. And there's no money has been transacted. Mark Issa came to my motion for new trial hearing and gave perjured testimony. He said that he came to see me over and over and over. And John Majeski testified that he came to see me up to 10 times and that they always met me in the conference room so that we could exchange documents of evidence. That they went over all the particulars of my case with me. And that we all agreed on my defense. What defense? Mark Issa testified at my motion for new trial hearing from the witness stand. He said, quote, "We felt that the offer by the district attorney's office to Mr. Bradford for a probated sentence was extremely, extremely favorable in this case. We bring our clients to where we feel they should be. And when Mr. Bradford refused to take the plea deal, we just sat back to see if the state could prove their case." He actually said that, people. We just sat back to see if the state could prove their case. If I wasn't going to plead guilty, he was not going to call any witnesses. He was not going to submit any evidence at trial that would exonerate me. I either plead guilty or he's going to let them convict me with no defense. That's what he did. That's what he said. And you can read it on the transcript right here at Georgia Court News. Now, people, if you want to hire this lawyer, you just run right on out and you hire Mark Issa. He's a good one now. And you hire John Majeski. Because you can have the evidence in your hand to exonerate you and you can see what, Go hire him. Go out there and hire the Issa Law Firm. Read this website and you will understand how good, what wonderful lawyers they are, and you run out there and you hire these fellas. And good luck to you. Now, Mark Issa and John Majeski, I'm a long way from through, you boys. I'm a long way from through with you boys. And here's what I got to say to you today. I invite you to defend yourself against these accusations I have on this website. You can't. You won't. The problem with you boys is you're just not. The problem is this. When you hire a man or rely on a man to defend your life, you got to have a fighter. These boys don't know how to fight. I dare say I doubt they've ever been spanked on their bottom, much less been in an actual fisticuff. You want a man that's going to stick his mug up in the fray and come back with a black eye if he has to. It ain't these boys. Just look at that video of John Majewski cracking that potato chip and he thinks he's done something. Good Lord have mercy. These boys do not have what it takes. And to top it off, they are crooks. Now, I have given you, we the people, the information you need to make an intelligent decision about these two lawyers. Now, you run on out there and hire them if you would like. I think you know better. But again, Mark Issa, John Majewski, I'm not through with you boys. Nowhere near through with you boys. Working on you just about every day. Now this is Georgia Court News. We put the truth on this program from the public record. You review Mark Issa's page here. I'm getting ready to do John Majewski's page. One more thing I want to add. At my motion for new trial hearing, I'm going to tell you the character of these two lawyers. Now, at my motion for new trial hearing, I hired attorney Jeffrey R. Filipovitz, and he demonstrated all these completion certificates, certified completion certificates. He demonstrated the building permit that they said did not exist. They showed that it actually did exist. And Mark Issa and John Majewski were both just shocked that this evidence existed. They both testified under oath that they had never seen this evidence before. Well, I already knew that because they never looked at anything. And they also testified that this evidence would undermine the state's case. This evidence would undermine the state's case. To say that a different way, this evidence proves Richard Bradford to be innocent of the charges against him. So, the point to be made here is, once these two lawyers saw the evidence that would exonerate Mr. Bradford, did they run to the courthouse and file any paperwork to get Mr. Bradford back in court and get this conviction off of him? No. The answer is no. These two lawyers left Richard Bradford in prison for over 8 years. Richard Bradford got himself out. What kind of lawyer who knows that the evidence exists that will free a man leaves that man in prison? What kind of lawyer does that, folks? The Issa Law Firm, Mark Issa and John Majewski. Georgia Court News, this is the end of this program. Have a good day.